Tell me about your major concern, responsive or unresponsive, or what were some of the major issues, what were some of the major hurdles you had to get over?
Yeah, our first visit to the site was a few days after we were authorized. At the time, we found a break in a storm drainage pipe. At the time, we weren't satisfied with how out of the site from disturbed areas of the site. At the time, we had, there wasn't an active decontamination pad available for use. We didn't have copies of the most current demolition plans, and we had some questions about the dewatering taking place. As they dewater, water gets pumped through what's called a frac tank, which is a big kind of trailer that's parked on site. That settles out the solids, and then they were discharging these dewatering into a sanitary sewer, and we just wanted to make sure that that was being tested in accordance with their state permits. It had been tested prior to activation in September. They hadn't done any subsequent tests on it. When we first arrived on site in January, we asked them to do those subsequent tests, and they did. And they actually added a bag filter, a filtration system on that discharge prior to discharging into the sanitary sewer. And that's what's in operation today.
Broken, was the water checked for contaminants?
Well, the water that was moving through the pipe, there's a pipe that runs from the railroad tracks towards Ash Creek underground the whole way. And there is a fairly steady flow in that pipe just from off-site sources running all the way through that pipe. So there was a break in the top of it that occurred well before we had gotten to the site. And it had been temporarily, the hole had been temporarily covered and surrounded with silt fence and hay bales. But we weren't satisfied with that temporary condition, and we actually asked them to perform a more permanent, full replacement of the pipe with concrete and seal it back up.
Okay. And was the water tested for contaminants?
Yes, you didn't answer.
Oh, no, I mean, no, there was never.
Water was not?
The water running in the pipe was water running from off-site sources underground through the site to Ash Creek.
I thought it was multiple sources, not just off-site. The indication was to us, this commission, that it was multiple sources.
It collects a lot of area. It wasn't tested. I can't sit here and represent which soil particles out there contain contaminants and which don't, and which may have entered the pipe when it broke originally before we got to the site. I simply don't know. The location of the pipe, the break in the pipe, was under the slab of the foundry building. My understanding of much of
Have there been any conditions that you felt required those kinds of actions?
When we first went out to the site, we were of the opinion that because they were removing the slab, that indeed site disturbance had to be done. And there were a number of conditions of the main permit that required compliance prior to site disturbance. And we said that in a very first memo. We said, although they may have an active demolition permit through the building department, they still need to comply with the conditions of this permit. And there were specific things that needed to be submitted. A lot of these, I already went over some of the issues on site that I was concerned with. The remaining issues were paper compliance problems. The bond wasn't submitted, the full review of the drawings hadn't been completed to our satisfaction, so there were a lot of paper things that needed to get done. And what we had said in that original memo was we're going to give them a very short time frame to show compliance, and if they don't meet that, then we're going to amp it up and recommend you to issue a violation. But